The house I'd spent 10 years of my life saving for, the one that guaranteed my daughter a spot at the best elementary school in the state, had been stolen out from under me. My daughter couldn't enroll. She was at home, crying her eyes out. I was so frantic I felt like jumping off a bridge. It was only after I started digging that I found the reason. An unknown boy's name had been added to my family's official residency documents. He was my wife's first love son. When I confronted her, she just stammered. A boy's education is more important, you know? Can't our daughter just make a little sacrifice? Besides, it's obvious she isn't as smart or promising as Dylan. Sending her to a school that good would just be a waste. I lost my mind. That very night, I filed immigration papers for the kid. I sent him to Zimbabwe. After all, I'm the head of the household. The spot's been taken? Are you kidding me? I had scrimped and saved, poured a decade of my earnings into this house, all to get my daughter into Northwood Elementary. It was the top magnet school in the state, practically an Ivy League feeder. I'd walked into the school's administrative office filled with hope, only to get hit by a freight train. Another student had already claimed our address's slot. He'd been attending for a full year. The district's policy was brutal. Once a spot was claimed, the address was locked for 6 years. That meant my own daughter would have to wait until she was in 4th grade to attend her own neighborhood school. How in the world was that possible? On what grounds did you give my daughter's spot to someone else? Who is this student? Is he the principal's nephew? This is some kind of under-the-table deal. This is fraud. You have to fix this. Or what? I'll report you. I'll call the police. If my daughter can't go to school here, I swear, I'll burn this place down. I was hysterical, shouting, all composure gone. I was convinced it was a corrupt school official pulling strings, but the truth was a slap in the face. The registrar pulled up last year's enrollment files. The boy, Dylan Stone, had paperwork that was all perfectly valid. Because we hadn't closed on the house yet last year, they didn't have a deed, but they did have a legitimate copy of our signed purchase agreement. And more importantly, they had a certified copy of our residency affidavit. Somehow, Dylan Stone was officially registered as living at my address. And I, the homeowner, had no idea. The school wasn't at fault. The fire was in my own backyard. The rage I'd felt moments before curdled into crushing humiliation. I felt like a clown in a circus of my own making. Dylan Stone? I had a pretty good guess who he was. I drove back to the new house we'd moved into only 2 months ago. It was in a brand new development directly across from Northwood Elementary, less than a quarter-mile walk. But right now, that distance felt like a million miles. Even with the real estate market in a slump, this neighborhood's property values held strong, all because of the best school district in the state tag. This house had cost me over $1 million. It wasn't just money. It was 10 years of my sweat and blood. I'm in sales. I've closed deals by eating crow, by sucking up to clients, and pretending to be their best friend. I never saw it as humiliating before. A man does what he has to do. For my daughter's future, I'd swallow any amount of pride. But now, it was all for someone else's kid. I hadn't just been swallowing my pride. I'd been played for a fool. When I walked in the door, my daughter was laying out her new Minnie Mouse backpack on the coffee table. Daddy, I'm going to be a real first grader. No more preschool for me. I love the school across the street. It looks like a castle inside. She ran to me, jumping into my arms. My eyes burned, and I almost broke down. I couldn't explain it to her. I couldn't tell her she wouldn't be going to that beautiful, top-ranked school because her spot was gone. Someone had stolen her future. She'd have to wait until every other kid in the city was placed, then hope for a last-minute opening in some random school across town. I took a deep breath, fighting to keep it together in front of her. "Where's your mom?" "In the kitchen." "Something smells so good," she said, smacking her lips. "Go to your room and draw for a bit, sweetie." I nudged her toward her room as my wife, Sarah, came out carrying a platter of shrimp scampi. "Dinner's ready." My suspicion had been an 8 out of 10. The shrimp scampi sealed it. Sarah was a decent cook, but she claimed the grease and steam were bad for her skin and hadn't set foot in the kitchen in 4 or 5 years. An unexpected kindness is either a trap or a confession. She was obviously hiding something. "Lily's enrollment didn't go through today," I said, my voice heavy. "It's a huge problem. Any normal mother would be frantic." But Sarah's face only flickered for a second before she forced a weak smile. "Don't worry. If it doesn't work out, we'll just find another school." The quality of education is pretty much the same everywhere these days. There's no need to be so obsessed with one school. Was she serious? I finally snapped. Who is Dylan Stone? Why is his name on our residency documents? Why did he take our daughter's spot? He wouldn't happen to be your old flame's kid, would he? He isn't your kid, is he? Sarah and I met on a blind date. It wasn't until after we were married that I learned about her college boyfriend, Trevor Stone. His parents had arranged a secure government job for him back in his hometown after graduation, so he broke up with Sarah. It was a common enough story. I didn't hold it against her. Who gets to our age without some history? As long as you keep the past in the past, it's fine. Our marriage was solid enough. After our daughter, Lily, was born, I became a completely devoted dad. I thought I had a happy life. Until today. Sarah's face flushed with anger and shame. Liam, do you have to be so crude? Yes, I put Dylan on our residency forms. I helped him enroll. But he's not my son. We're not related at all. I was just helping out an old friend. Why are you overreacting like this? Trevor got transferred here last year. Can we please just eat first? This shrimp is fresh. She still wanted to eat. I must have been blind. I slammed the platter onto the floor. It shattered, sending shrimp and garlic butter splattering across the new hardwood. Eat. Is that all you can think about? Have you eaten your brain, Sarah? Her spot is gone. What about Lily's school? If you want to crawl back to your ex, that's your business, but don't you dare use our daughter's future as a bargaining chip to impress him. You're a terrible wife, and an even worse mother. I was shaking with rage. Daddy, Mommy, please don't fight. Stop. Lily had come out of her room, drawn by the shouting, and was now standing there, terrified and crying. Sarah rushed over and wrapped her in a hug, putting on a sickening display of motherly affection. Why are you yelling? You're scaring her. And you call yourself a college graduate? You have no class at all. She turned back to me. I'll tell you again. I'm not the person you think I am. Trevor and I are just friends. They moved here last year, and he mentioned wanting Dylan to go to Northwood. I told him we had a house in the district and offered to help him out. How was I supposed to know the spot would be locked for years? That policy is completely unreasonable. If you've got a problem, go yell at the school. Make them change the rules. Don't come home and act like a big shot here. She said it with such conviction, as if she'd done nothing wrong. I was so angry I started to laugh. Why didn't you discuss something this huge with me? Because you get so jealous. You're a grown man who's more petty than a teenage girl. She shot back. Married for 7 years, and this was the first time I realized how completely irrational this woman was. I felt like she just force-fed me a bowl of garbage. I want to scream, to have it out with her right there, but I couldn't do that to Lily. I swallowed my fury. Fine, we'll deal with that later. Right now, what's most important is getting Lily's spot back. I want you to get Dylan Stone off our residency and out of that school. Now, that was my bottom line. To my astonishment, Sarah looked at me as if I'd grown a second head. What? You want to kick Dylan out of Northwood? How can you be so unreasonable? Dylan is a gifted student. He has a real future ahead of him. You'd be ruining that kid's life. We can't do that. It's immoral. It wouldn't just hurt his academic progress. It would crush his self-esteem. The words tumbled out of her mouth, one after another. I wanted to walk over and slap her. So, Dylan's future was gold, but our daughter's was dirt? Though she was little, Lily understood. She looked at her mother, her eyes swimming with tears. Mommy, what about my school? Sarah switched to a placating, baby talk voice. Don't you worry, sweetie. You'll go to school too. How about we let Daddy find you another one? Let's not fight with Dylan, okay? Remember how Mommy taught you it's important to share. Of course Lily didn't want that, but she didn't dare argue, and just cried harder. My heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. I pulled my daughter into my arms. Sarah, if Dylan were actually your son with Trevor, I could almost understand this. But he's not, which just makes you pathetic and disgusting. Sarah stomped her foot. I told you he isn't. I'll take a paternity test with him if you want. Just drop this whole thing with the school. Look, having Dylan on our documents could be a blessing in disguise. Why don't we just adopt him as our godson? A boy's education is what really matters. For a girl, it's not as important. Dylan is brilliant. He's going to be somebody someday, and we'll get to benefit from his success. Let's be honest about Lily. Do you really think she's going to get into Harvard or Yale? She's just not made of that stuff. Liam, it's not that I don't love her. I do. I carried her for 9 months. But we have to be realistic, right? We can't get carried away with unrealistic dreams. The fact is, this school spot is more valuable to Dylan. Giving it to Lily would be a total waste. She just kept going, on and on. This was a mother tearing down her own daughter. Did Lily not have feelings? Did she not have dignity? Couldn't she feel the sting of being rejected, of being told she wasn't good enough? I watched the light in my daughter's eyes dim. I knew, with absolute certainty, that even 50 years from now, she would remember the words that came out of her own mother's mouth today. It was a scar that would never heal. Sarah, that's enough. In that moment, I knew our marriage was over. I took Lily to my parents' house, too ashamed to tell them the truth about the school situation. My normally bubbly daughter had become quiet and withdrawn. As I was leaving, she grabbed my hand. "Daddy," she whispered, "am I really dumb? Is that why Mommy doesn't like me?" Tears streamed down her face. "Daddy, please don't leave me, okay?" I started crying, too. A man isn't supposed to cry, but my heart was broken. "Lily, don't you ever think that? You're the smartest little girl in the world, and Daddy will always, always protect you." I swore to myself right then, no matter what it took, no matter the cost, I would get justice for my daughter. She could grow up to be anything she wanted. She could fail to get into Harvard or Yale, and I wouldn't care. But no one was going to steal her chance at the best education possible. Not even her own mother. After I dropped Lily off, Sarah had the nerve to suggest finding a school for her near my parents' condo. It will be convenient for them to pick her up and drop her off, she'd said. She refused to contact the Stones, refused to give me Trevor's number. But in the digital age, there are ways. I staked out a local tutoring center and finally saw Dylan come out with his mother. "Are you Dylan's mother?" "Who are you?" The woman, with a cascade of salon-perfect waves, eyed me suspiciously. "Your son took my daughter's spot at Northwood. I need you to give it back." Saying this meant exposing Sarah. I knew she must have kept this whole arrangement a secret from Trevor's wife. What woman wouldn't be furious to learn her husband was still entangled with an old girlfriend? I expected a fight. I expected her to go after her husband, to go after Sarah. But I had completely misjudged the situation. I was done protecting Sarah anyway. Trevor's wife sneered. She clearly knew everything. "Oh, so you're Sarah's husband. You want a spot back? In your dreams. Your wife offered it to us. She's pathetic. She's willing to kiss my husband's ass. And who are we to say no? You want to be mad? Go control your own wife. If you can't, then shut your mouth. Let me spell it out for you. We didn't even want the spot at first. Your wife literally begged us to take it. My husband was worried I'd get jealous." "Jealous? Why would I be jealous? I wish the stupid woman would sign over your house to us, too." "Ha ha ha. But don't worry. My husband has zero interest in your wife. Everything she's doing is just her own pathetic, one-sided delusion." So Sarah hadn't betrayed our daughter as part of an affair. She'd done it out of pure, unadulterated desperation to please a man who didn't want her. That was even more disgusting. In this woman's eyes, Sarah wasn't even a homewrecker. She was just a pathetic groupie. That house is our marital property. That school spot belongs to my daughter. Sarah had no right to give it away. "You'll give it back." "Ha ha. Make me. What are you going to do about it?" she taunted. "I bet you won't do a thing. A man who can't even control his own wife is a coward." Her son, Dylan, a nasty little brat, started making faces at me. "Loser. Loser." I was on the verge of exploding when Sarah came rushing up, grabbing my arm. "Liam, stop. You're making a scene." Then she turned to Trevor's wife, her face a mask of apologetic smiles. "I'm so sorry about this. We can handle it ourselves. You should get Dylan home. He must be hungry." Her smile was genuinely submissive, fawning. "Dylan, you study hard now. You're going to get into Harvard someday." I nearly bit through my lip. After they left, Sarah looked at me with an expression of pure innocence. "Don't glare at me like that. I'm here to solve the problem, aren't I? Trevor is waiting for you." At a nearby coffee shop, I met Trevor Stone. He was a smiling snake, bowing and scraping with false apologies. "Liam, my friend, I am so sorry. I had no idea this school spot thing was so complicated. If this is causing problems in your marriage, then I'm truly to blame. Man, I tried to refuse, but Sarah was just so insistent. It felt rude to say no, you know?" He called it an apology, but his words dripped with condescension. He was gloating, radiating the smug superiority of a man who thinks he's won. I wasn't interested in fighting over a woman who'd made her choice. So how are you going to fix this? When are you giving the spot back? Giving it back isn't really an option. My son's education can't be disrupted, you know, he said, finally showing his true colors. But your daughter needs to go to school, too. I'm a reasonable guy. I like to help people out. So, here's my solution. You give me $250,000, and I'll transfer Dylan to a private international school. Then the Northwood spot is all yours. How does that sound? That's 5 years of tuition. I'll cover his living expenses myself. I'm not a monster. That's my final offer. If you don't take it, we'll just let things sit. I've already looked into it. The police won't get involved. If you sue, it'll take a year, maybe more, to get a court date. School starts in 2 weeks. Do you really think you have that kind of time? The international school was an elite academy, with tuition rates that were astronomical. It was even better than Northwood. Trevor had played this perfectly. He sat back, crossing his legs, looking at me like I was a bug under his thumb. And Sarah, my own wife, jumped in to help him. Liam, this is the best solution. I know we don't have the money, but what about your mom? Can't she sell her condo and rent a small apartment? It's her own granddaughter. She can't be that selfish, can she? I didn't say a word. I just stood up and walked out. Behind me, I heard Trevor's fake laugh. Sarah, I've been more than generous. Your husband is a difficult man. I know, I'm so sorry. So sorry. I exhaled a long, shaky breath and pulled out my phone. What's the fastest you can process an immigration application for a minor? Yes, Zimbabwe is perfect. I'll pay extra. I need it done in a week. Desperate times call for desperate measures. I'd spent days agonizing over this, and I knew that talking, begging, and raging were all useless. The Stones were never going to give up the spot willingly. How could I force their hand? Trevor was confident because he'd done his homework. He knew that the legal system was too slow to help me. His son was already in the school. He could afford to wait. My daughter was the one on a deadline. He thought he had me cornered, but I've been studying the district policies too. You can't just kick a kid out of school, but you can transfer them. If I could get Dylan transferred, the spot would open up. And since Dylan was officially listed as a resident at my address and Sarah had, in her infinite stupidity, signed a document giving me temporary educational guardianship to get him enrolled, I had the legal authority to do it. But a domestic transfer was complicated. It required proof of a new address, acceptance letters, and all sorts of red tape. The Stones would find out immediately and fight me every step of the way. I needed a better plan. Something faster. Something irreversible. Why transfer him when I could emigrate him? Sponsoring a minor's immigration to another country was a bureaucratic maneuver that could instantly invalidate his local school registration. Getting him into the U.S. or Western Europe would be impossible and expensive. An investor visa for the U.S. was $800,000. But getting him into a developing nation in Africa or Latin America, that was fast and cheap. I did some research. I could get a kid a new citizenship in certain African nations for just a few $1,000s. It was beautifully cost-effective. So, I chose Zimbabwe, one of the poorest countries on the planet. A nation so famous for hyperinflation that at one point, its currency was worth less than the paper it was printed on. A single U.S. dollar was worth 300 trillion Zimbabwe dollars. People were paying for a bus ride with $100 billion bills. Things had improved slightly, but the country was still desperate for any foreign investment. The investment needed to secure a visa was laughably small, about 1,000 U.S. dollars. I was more than happy to pay it. The agent at the shady online immigration firm I found was a bit hesitant. Dude, I get that he's not your biological kid, but are you sure you want to send him to Africa? I just smiled. Zimbabwe might be poor, but it was better than Afghanistan or Ukraine, right? I was being merciful. Armed with the new documents and the guardianship papers, I walked back into Northwood Elementary. The process of withdrawing Dylan Stone was shockingly smooth. The school staff looked at me like I was a hero. It turned out the Stones were already infamous at the school. Dylan was a good student, but he was a nasty, jealous kid who actively sabotaged his classmates. He'd even tried to get another kid expelled by planting a cheat sheet under his desk and then reporting him. The teachers, thankfully, weren't idiots. They disciplined Dylan and called his parents in for a meeting. Instead of being apologetic, Trevor and his wife had caused a massive scene, accusing the teachers of favoritism and discriminating against students who weren't from the area. They even called a local news blogger to try and spin the story. So, when they heard I was getting rid of Dylan, the teachers were practically weeping with joy. 2 weeks passed. It was the first day of school. The school held a little welcome ceremony for the new first graders. I dressed Lily in a brand new dress she'd picked out herself. She looked adorable and bright, a little scholar in the making. And, of course, standing at the school gates were the 3 people I least wanted to see. Trevor walked over, that same phony smile plastered on his face. Liam, my friend, pride is a dangerous thing. You've been so busy stewing in your anger that you've let your daughter miss the enrollment deadline. That's a real shame. Let it go. Find another school for her. The city schools are probably full, but you could try the countryside. Wide open spaces, you know. Good for building character. The fresh air will do her good. The man was so utterly shameless. Enjoy your smile now, I thought. You'll be crying soon enough. His wife chimed in. Dylan, get to your classroom. Don't hang around with the riffraff. You're better than them. Dylan stuck his tongue out at Lily, who hid behind my legs. Sarah, naturally, was there too. She'd come to make sure I didn't cause a scene. Liam, can you please be mature about this? What's done is done. Acting like a bitter housewife isn't going to change anything. Have you even looked for another school for Lily? If she misses the start of the year, that's on you. You're being a completely irresponsible father. You can't let your jealousy ruin your own child's future. I'm warning you, don't start anything. There's security here. When a person's standards are low enough, they can no longer disappoint you. Nothing Sarah said could get to me anymore. I gently patted Lily's back. Go on, sweetie. Go to class. Be a good listener, and Daddy will be here to pick you up when school's out. Lily nodded, though she looked warily at her mother. Don't be afraid. No one is going to stop you. Encouraged, Lily darted into the school like a little sparrow. What is she doing? Get back here. Sarah shouted after her, but Lily didn't look back. Sarah stomped her foot in frustration. You've spoiled her rotten. Trevor chuckled. What's the point? She's just going to be kicked out in 5 minutes. Does she enjoy being publicly humiliated? Just then, Dylan's homeroom teacher came out of the building. She was carrying a black trash bag filled with Dylan's notebooks and supplies from the previous year. Here, you can take these. Dylan's mother panicked. What do you mean? Just what I said. Dylan Stone is no longer a student at this school. I'm just returning his things. No longer a student? You'd better watch what you say. I'll have you reported. I stepped forward, smiling. Report her for what? Allow me to formally inform you all. I've processed an immigration application for Dylan. He is now a proud citizen of the Republic of Zimbabwe. You'd better start looking for schools for him there. It's a long way away. He'll definitely need one of you to go with him. Actually, you should all go. Sarah, you too. I think you'd be a perfect fit over there. My words left all 3 of them stunned into silence. Immigration? Zimbabwe? What the hell is that? My smile widened. Oh, it's a wonderful place. Incredibly wealthy. People there tip in the hundreds of millions. You've really lucked out. And the best part? Beautiful scenery, fresh air, endless African savanna. Wide open spaces, perfect for building character. I'm sure it will be a very enriching experience. There is no sweeter revenge than turning your enemy's words against them. Trevor's face looked like he'd just swallowed a turd. Emigrated? You're bluffing. It's not that easy. I'm warning you. Forging documents is a federal crime. He didn't believe me, but when I showed him the complete, officially stamped set of immigration papers, his jaw dropped. After a moment of stunned silence, he snapped. I'm going to kill you. He roared, lunging at me. I was ready for him. I sidestepped his charge and stuck out my foot, sending him sprawling face first onto the pavement. It was a pathetic, humiliating fall. The commotion drew a crowd of parents and students. A security guard started running over, and I saw someone else pull out their phone to call the police. You want to go to jail? Keep trying. I'm happy to oblige, I said with a calm smile, mimicking his own smug expression. His wife helped him up, screaming at me. By what right did you do this to my son? You're a human trafficker. You're the one who's going to prison. I laughed. By what right? By the right of Dylan being registered as a resident of my home, making me his legal guardian for all school-related matters. You may be his biological parents, but according to the law and the documents your friend here signed, what I say goes. If I really wanted to, I could take Dylan home with me right now and only grant you supervised visitation once a week. But I won't because the thought of it disgusts me. Now, I suggest you go home and start packing. Mount Kilimanjaro, the Great Rift Valley, the Great Migration. Africa has some stunning sights. You should really plan out your trip. The more I spoke, the paler their faces became. Oh, and Trevor, didn't you want to send your son to an international school? Well, I just made him an international citizen. One step ahead of you. Consider it a favor. No need to thank me. Trevor finally understood what it felt like to be force-fed his own medicine. The whites of his eyes rolled back, and he fainted dead away. Sarah was just as dumbfounded. Liam, did you really get him sent to Africa? People can't live there. I didn't even bother to look at her. I got in my car and drove away. I knew the Stones wouldn't give up, but I wasn't worried anymore. Now, they were the desperate ones. For the next few days, the Stones ran around like headless chickens. They went to the school, the Board of Education, the police department, the State Department, trying to get his enrollment reinstated, trying to get his citizenship restored. But just like I had been, they were trapped by their own cleverness. Every agency told them the same thing. This is a civil matter you need to resolve on your own. Why did you register your child at someone else's address? You handed them a knife and invited them to stab you. Immigrating a child under your legal guardianship isn't a crime. In the end, Trevor had no choice but to show up at my door, his wife in tow, begging. I didn't look up from the book I was reading, a new copy of Moby Dick. Liam, I know I was out of line before, but you can't ruin my son's life over this. Be the bigger man. Forgive and forget. Let's just call a truce, okay? His wife forced a pained smile and held out a bag of organic bananas. A small token of our apology. I closed the book. Trevor, do you like classic literature? He was confused, but he played along. Yeah, I do. I thought so. I said, as if I'd found a kindred spirit. I bet you really identify with Captain Ahab. So consumed by his obsession that he drives everyone, including himself, to ruin for the sake of his own vanity. Trevor's face contorted with rage. He finally understood I was mocking him. His wife shrieked. We already apologized. What more do you want? These are expensive, imported bananas. Bananas are for monkeys. And you two are putting on quite a show. After the Stones left, Sarah came home. She'd been gone for days. I didn't know where, and I didn't care. Where's Lily? She asked, looking around. At her grandparents'. Look, Lily's school situation is resolved. Can we just let this go? Are you really going to make Dylan leave the country? Her face was etched with exhaustion. I've spent the last few days running around to different offices, too. This is a real mess. You're the only one who can fix it. Can't you just stop being so petty and vindictive for once? Do it for me. Let's make peace. Otherwise, how will our families ever be able to face each other again? She was still talking when I handed her a document. It was a divorce agreement. Let's get a divorce. Her words stopped dead. Her face was a canvas of panic. No, I won't sign it. You want to divorce me over one little mistake? Don't you think that's ridiculous? Staying married to you, Sarah? That's what would be ridiculous. I gathered both sets of parents and Lily together and told them my decision. At first, they all tried to talk me out of it, as families do. But after I laid out the entire story, my parents fell silent. Even my in-laws looked mortified, opening and closing their mouths without a single word to say in their daughter's defense. Lily, I asked her gently, Mommy and Daddy are getting a divorce. Who do you want to live with? With Daddy, she answered, without a moment's hesitation. Stop. You can't do this to me. Sarah wailed, covering her face. I took Lily and my parents and walked out. As the door closed behind us, I heard Sarah's mother's furious scream, followed by her father's roar. How did we raise such a disgraceful, embarrassing child? Crack. The sharp sound of a slap. I didn't look back. It was a slap I'd wanted to deliver myself for a long time. The night before Sarah and I were due to sign the papers, Trevor got desperate. I had just pulled into my driveway. Before I could even get Lily out her car seat, I heard a whistling sound cut through the air behind me. I'll kill you. It was Trevor. He'd ambushed me, wielding a steel pipe, swinging it wildly. My first instinct was to lock the car doors, to keep Lily safe. Then I fought back. I've been on high alert for days, and I'd started carrying a small can of pepper spray, a high-potency formula made from the world's hottest ghost peppers. I pressed the button. A thick red mist shot out. He let out a blood-curdling scream, dropping the pipe and clawing at his eyes as he writhed on the ground. I'm blind. Oh God, I'm blind. He was right. If he hadn't been blind with rage and stupidity, he never would have picked a fight with a man he couldn't beat. I picked up the steel pipe and returned the favor. Crack! The sound of bone breaking. Trevor was sent to the hospital first. After they flushed his eyes and set his arm in a cast, he was taken into police custody. My actions were ruled self-defense. Trevor, on the other hand, was charged with assault with a deadly weapon. Not only did he get a beating, but once his arm was stable, he was sentenced to jail time. And on top of all that, he lost his job. That secure government position, the one he dumped Sarah for all those years ago, the one that had eventually brought him here to ruin my life, it was gone. A criminal conviction meant automatic termination. In the hospital, Trevor lay in his bed, the smugness completely erased from his face, replaced by a sullen, defeated gloom. His wife sat beside him, sighing dramatically. Sarah showed up, holding a bouquet of flowers. Trevor, I'm so sorry you're suffering. This is all my fault. I dragged you into this. She started apologizing the second she walked in. She was good at feeling guilty, but even then, I knew she still didn't understand what she'd truly done wrong. Trevor just stared at the ceiling, his face a stony mask. But his wife exploded. You witch! This is all because of you, she shrieked. You shameless homewrecker. If it weren't for you, none of this would have happened. I'll kill you. She flew at Sarah, scratching and punching. Sarah screamed, trying to cover her face. Trevor said nothing. I stood in the doorway, watching the show. A small crowd had gathered. Looks like she's beating up the other woman. Serves her right. Trashy people. I listened, but I didn't agree. Sarah wasn't a homewrecker. A homewrecker has a motive, something to gain. Sarah was far more pathetic than that. She'd set fire to her own life for absolutely nothing. After Trevor recovered and served his time, he finally gave up. He agreed to pay me $50,000 for pain and suffering, and only then did I agree to cooperate in getting Dylan's immigration status reversed. My daughter and I moved on. Our life was happy. I eventually met someone new. Sarah's life fell apart. Her parents disowned her, and her relationship with Trevor was obviously destroyed beyond repair. Liam, I was wrong. I was so wrong. Trevor is a selfish coward. He's abandoned me again and again. He said his parents forced him to leave me in college. Now he says his wife is forcing him to cut me off. I was never his priority. Stop. Can we get back together? I promise. I'll be a good wife to you from now on. She was crying hysterically. I felt nothing. She turned her pleading eyes to our daughter. Lily, don't you want a mommy back? Lily just shook her head, her expression firm. I only want a mommy who doesn't think I'm a waste. She looked up at the house. I'll go get her. You should go be Dylan's mom instead. With that, she ran upstairs, returning a moment later holding the hand of the kind, wonderful woman who had become a part of our lives. But Sarah was already gone, a shrinking figure disappearing into the darkness. The wind was strong that night, and it carried the sound of her crying from far away. But who was there to blame? A person with a divided heart is never worth your sympathy.